Okay, cool. We're live. Everybody. Hello, everybody. This is Bradley Benner with KetoVIP. And I've got Roberto Esposito on with me today. He's my new partner. What's up, Roberto?
What's going on, everyone? How you doing, Bradley?
I'm great, man. I'm great. I'm really excited for this is now the third KetoVIP new member orientation webinar that I've done. This is the first time I've had support. So, and I'm, a couple things I want to just kind of like lay out right up front, guys. For those of you that are new members, this is something that I try to do once a month, and I've been doing it on my own, like I said, until recently when I got to meet Roberto. He lives in New Jersey. I live in Virginia, but he came to visit in Virginia, and I got to meet him in person and brought him on as a partner because he's got a lot of knowledge with diet and fitness and nutrition and that kind of stuff, way more experience than I do. And, and I've been real clear up front since day one with the KetoVIP group that it was, I'm not certified or qualified to give diet and fitness advice other than through my own experience. And that's it. And, but Roberto is much more qualified than I am. And I thought it was just a really good, a match made in heaven, so to speak. So, Roberto, I'm really glad to have you as part of this group and part of the team now. And, I can see how much you've been, reacting and providing support to members in the Facebook group. And I just want to say how much I appreciate that, as well as I'm sure many of the members do.
Well, thanks. I just wanted to add to it. You said that your experience is pretty much what you're basing pretty much your recommendations on. And I think that's a really important point because for better or worse, that's me as well. I mean, I might have a lot of it, but learning comes from the experience and comes from the doing, right? So, that's a key place to start. Being humble especially, right? So when we get into this, we're obviously going to get into questions, and we might get into responses that we had on our last webinar that I didn't attend. However, there's always going to be somebody, like an expert in the room, who's going to want to challenge these ideas. And I urge everyone on this webinar, within fitness and within life in general, to really stay open to new ideas, because me and Bradley don't know all things about everything, right? Part of us learning is being humble enough to accept new ideas and to implement them ourselves and to see how they work or not work, right? So it's going to be the same for you. You could be the person who doesn't listen to any of the things we have to say or the resources we give and have the same results as always and be the expert. Or you could take a chance on new ideas and see the results for yourself, right? I think that's the goal here.
Yeah, that's awesome. And that's a very good point. And see, that's in part why I think you're such a good addition to the team, is because being able to present information in a way, and I appreciate that. And guys, I we've got a few questions that were submitted ahead of time, but I just want to let everybody know who's might be kind of new to attending webinars. You should see a chat box. If you guys have any questions at all, please post them in the chat box. That's what we're here for. This is really just, we wanted to cover a few different topics and kind of present. I kind of wanted to announce Roberto being part of the team now, and then there's a few things that we're going to cover. And then we've got the questions that were submitted ahead of time. But remember, this is your time, guys. We're here to help you, get on the ketogenic diet, make the proper fitness and nutrition decisions that are going to help you to reach your goals instead of working against yourself, which I'm sure many of you have been doing. God knows I had some really bad habits that I had to replace. Unfortunately, the ketogenic diet and just getting healthy has replaced all of those bad habits for me. So that's what we're here for. And I guess with that said, Roberto, maybe we should get in some the pre-posted questions first. Do you think that's a good idea?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, go for it. I'm going to load mine up because I have to restart my browser. Let me just load it.
Well, I'm going to go ahead and grab the screen, and I'll lock my screen on the questions. Okay, are you guys seeing my screen now? Hello?
I can see it, Bradley. I don't know if they can.
Yeah, well, that's true. Let's. Do you have the watch page open?
Yeah, I paused it in the very beginning. I see 6 attendees, nothing coming in. Perhaps I can say, like, give us a 1, guys, if you can listen.
Yeah, guys, if you don't mind, in the chat box, just let us know that you can see the screen. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and proceed, and then you can relay the message to me.
Cool. Linda says yes.
Okay, cool. I just want to make sure, guys. All right, so this is the first question was submitted by Linda. She says, Bradley, thanks. I need to lose about 85 pounds. I'm type 2 diabetic. although I've been eating keto since January, I've not able to get blood sugars down low enough to go into ketosis. I cut the carbs back even more, 10 to 20 grams per day. I cut out dairy except for ghee. Well, ghee actually isn't dairy, because all the dairy has been, you know, I guess I don't want to say processed out, but it's been boiled out of ghee. So ghee like has no lactose or anything in it. It's literally clarified butter fat. That's all it is clarified butter fat. So like all of the milk product of it or whatever has been, you know, boiled out or whatever. I'm not like, again, I don't know how ghee is produced. All I know is it's clarified butter fat, but so that's good. You cut out dairy. I mean, I still consume like dairy products like sour cream and heavy whipping cream, you know, that kind of stuff. But that's because there's no carbs in that. Okay. She says, any suggestions on getting into ketosis and then staying there? Doc had me on glipizide, which causes me to produce even more insulin. I guess that's some sort of pharmaceutical. When not taking it over several weeks, blood sugars came down on keto diet, but still not low enough. 16 to 1700 calories daily, less than 20 grams of carbs, moderate protein, female, 66 years old. Okay, that's a lot to cover here.
Mm-hmm.
But what I mean, my first thought would be, you know, I'm not diabetic, so I'm not sure how that affects to, you know, getting into ketosis, especially if you're taking some sort of pharmaceutical. That might affect it as well. I can say that for me not being diabetic, one of the things that I had to do to help to get into ketosis originally was, you know, I went on the very similar to what the induction phase is in the Atkins diet, where I would stay at 20 grams of carbs or less per day for a week. And I did that for an entire week. And then I immediately, when I first got started at the ketogenic diet, I started supplementing with Keto OS, or some people call it Ketos. I'm not sure which the proper way to pronounce that is, but I call it Keto OS, by Prove It, the exogenous ketones. And I've been taking them ever since. I take 1 serving per day. And that helped to get me into ketosis. And I still use it every day. I take a serving of Keto OS prior to going to the gym every day. And so I don't know, that might be something that could help you. But Roberto, what are your thoughts?
Okay. Firstly, I would say, because you're a type 2 diabetic, one of two things is happening. It's either pancreatic based, where the insulin is being produced. And because you said you're taking glipizide, I'm going to assume that that's the case, because glipizide increases insulin production. And because of that, you're obviously going to have more insulin in your blood. So it seems like the natural progression, like you said, when you stop taking that, you lost some weight, right? Well, that's natural, because what the ketogenic diet does is limits the rise or the release of insulin. So just kind of understanding your condition and the effects of the things that you're putting in your body and why it's happening is going to help you. However, if the other side of diabetes, or type 2 diabetes, is coming from the liver, where the liver is not accepting the insulin, and what the insulin is going to do, like when you eat something that has sugar, insulin, blood sugar levels rise, right? You probably know this already, but blood sugar levels are going to rise. And we can't have all that blood or all that sugar in our blood. So what happens is the pancreas releases insulin. Insulin is going to be the gateway. It's like a key that unlocks cells in the liver as well as in the muscle fibers to allow that sugar to go into those cells to be used for energy. So if you're taking something that's going to be increasing your insulin, that's something we're going to want to avoid. So I don't know if glipizide is something that you're going to be able to get off of completely. If it's doctor recommended, I'm not a doctor and I don't play one. However, staying on the diet as is going to be helpful. I would put it this way. I don't know how many greens you're eating per day, but we got to get away from just high fats and like low carbs and moderate protein. Because if you think about this, that's very high level, and we have to understand like what these things are actually doing in our body. So without knowing too much about you, just hearing about your condition, I would say just keep doing what you're doing. Stay on the ketosis diet. It is actually recommended for type 2 diabetics.
Yeah.
It's going to stop or prevent in a large degree that rise in insulin. And that insulin is going to be the storer of fat. Insulin is used to put sugar, glucose, into cells. And when there's too much of it, it gets stored as glycogen. When there's extra amounts of it, it gets stored as fat.
Right.
We want to stop that insulin or prevent it from going up crazy.
Yep. And a ketogenic diet, you know, I know, and again, I'm not a doctor either, but from just the research that I've done for my own personal needs was that, you know, following a ketosis diet can actually, it has in some cases been able to actually reverse type 2 diabetes, which is insane. And for people that are pre-diabetic, which is like 1/3 of the country, it's crazy. Like, or it's either 25% or it's either 1 in 4 or 1 in 3. I can't remember, but it's something like 85 million Americans are pre-diabetic, which means they, if they continue along their current eating habits and health path, that they are likely, very likely to develop type 2 diabetes. And so a ketogenic diet is great for that. And I can tell when I was 280 pounds a year and a half ago, I was probably pre-diabetic and I didn't even realize it. And now I'm good. Like, you know, the whole point of a ketogenic diet, like Roberto just said, is to normalize your insulin response to where you don't, you know, you're not increased, you're not having those insulin spikes, which cause sugar crashes and all that other kind of crap that, you know, that fortunately I got away from. So, you know, the other thing is I want to mention is, you know, I always talk about, and I say this a million times in the group, and we're going to have a little discussion about that here in a moment, based upon a comment on one of the videos that I created, or from the last webinar, but about counting calories and that kind of stuff. You know, personally, for me, one thing that besides, and this is specifically for Linda, guys, but, you know, I tracked whether or not, and tested myself whether or not I was in ketosis a lot in the beginning, until I got into ketosis. And then once I got there, by that time I had kind of dialed in what my calorie intake number, or my calorie numbers should be as well. And from that point on, I was able to consistently lose weight. And so I really stopped testing myself for ketosis to see if I was in ketosis or not, because it didn't matter to me as long as I was achieving the same results. And I knew that I was eating very low carb, and my macros were such that they should put me in ketosis, but I didn't continue to test. But really because I didn't need to, because I was achieving the results and I was feeling good all the time. Again, I eliminated heartburn 100%. Like, all the problems that I had that were diet caused problems went away. And so I stopped measuring or testing to see if I was in ketosis. However, you know, one thing, for me, it had a lot to do with dialing in my calorie number, figuring out what my daily calorie number should be, how many calories I burn on a normal basis, and then staying in a reduction or a deficit. And it can be called an energy deficit or a calorie deficit. Either way, it's the same thing. And then, you know, over the last year and a half now, it took me a few months, guys, to really learn all that and dial it in. But once I learned my numbers, now I can manipulate my weight at will. And it's amazing. And it all has to do, for me, with following the keto diet macros, the recommended macros, which, by the way, since the last webinar that I did for new members, I've switched to more of a strict ketogenic diet. I had mentioned in some of my videos that I was following a little bit of a higher protein diet than just what's considered a strict ketogenic diet. And I've been doing that because I was doing a ton of strength training. And it was because regardless of what I read about the ketogenic diet, I felt like I needed more protein. So I continued to eat higher levels of protein. But since we started the 30-day challenge, the first 30-day challenge that we did for KetoVIP, which was in March, I went and switched to a strict ketogenic diet where I was about 75% fat. And I've been for the most part, there's a few days where my macros go a little bit off, but for the most part, I'd stay at, you know, 75, between 70 and 80% fat as my macros. And so I consumed a lot less protein, about 10% less than what I had been consuming on a regular basis. And I was able to just drop fat in the 6 weeks that I was doing I started on February 18th and we finished the 30-day challenge a week ago on Monday. And I lost 21 pounds in basically 6 weeks. And it was just by cutting my calories. I did about 1,000 calorie deficit on a daily basis. And I adjusted my macros to be more of a strict ketogenic diet. And I was able to drop that weight very, very quickly. So again, I just want to mention to Linda, because she's saying 1,600 to 1,700 calories daily. I don't know what your calorie number is, but personally and we're going to talk about whether or not you need to count calories in a few moments, we're going to talk about that. But for me personally, that was really the key, was trying to follow the ketogenic diet macros and then figuring out that calorie number and manipulating that. And that's what had the greatest impact on me being able to lose weight or gain weight, depending on what my goal was at the moment, if that makes sense. Did that come across clearly? I'm not, Roberto?
Yeah, that did. And as you were speaking, I was reminded of something as well. And I think this is important for Linda and for anybody to hear this, is that depending on your situation, if you want to, because your body is like, it doesn't think for itself. It will do what you like, what it's like if then, like a computer program. If this goes in my body, then this is the response, right? So if you want to get into ketosis, ketosis just means ketones, which is a byproduct of the metabolism of fat, are now being your primary source of fuel. Mm-hmm. If you want that to happen at a more rapid pace, you can just prioritize that by eating less carbs. You can, I mean, it says you're eating 20 grams of carbs here, Linda. I don't know what source those carbs are coming from. Really look at, if they're fibrous, grainy, that's awesome. If they're carbs that are coming from sugar, even a slight amount of sugar can cause that insulin to be released. Yeah. Okay, so what you're going to want to do is perhaps go on like a no carb fast, or excuse me, a no sugar fast, because you'll get the carbs from green, like spinach or kale and things like this. And what you're doing is you're signaling to your body, I'm not getting glucose, therefore I need another solution. And so your body will start producing ketones. How it does that is it's going to use the fat that's already in your system, and it's going to metabolize that to create ketones, and those ketones will be used as energy. And I plan on making more videos and making this a lot less of a daunting task to understand. And I'm learning along the way too. But when you attack it from, like, I'm a very visual person, so I see these in videos and things like that. It makes it so much easier to understand. So it's not as easy as 20 grams of carbs and I'm hitting my daily carbs. Well, those carbs could contain glucose, which is enough to get you out of burning fat primarily. Your body, especially when you're 66 years old, I don't know how long you've been on, or I don't know how long you've not been on ketosis. You're probably not adapted to eating fats primarily or burning fats primarily. So understand that just as much as you spend a life not in ketosis, it might take some time to get your body acting in the way that it should with ketosis.
Yeah. Yeah, and what's interesting with that is just, I mean, you know, now that I've been in ketosis for well over a year, once you become keto adapted, then it's easier to slip back in and out of ketosis. It's a lot faster. It's making that what they call metabolic switch, that first time that your body switches from using glucose as primary energy source to ketones. That's when you become keto adapted. That's what they call the metabolic switch. And so when that occurs, and that's why people go through that keto flu, especially if they've never been in ketosis before, it's a much more severe, the symptoms are much more severe of the keto flu. But once you become keto adapted, then, you know, obviously there's going to be times where you're going to overdo it. And you're going to get out of, you know, you overdo it on carbs or whatever, and you end up slipping out of ketosis. But it's so much easier to get back into ketosis once you become keto adapted. So it's not so long of a period. And I know because there's, you know, I have tested myself at times, especially after, like, you know, a cheat meal or something. And I know that, you know, you can get back into ketosis naturally by just going back into like an induction phase or whatever, to where you really restrict carb intake for a couple days, usually 3 days for me, after like a cheat meal or something. If I don't do any exogenous ketones and I don't do a particularly intense workout, it takes me about 72 hours to get back into full ketosis, nutritional ketosis. But if I do the following day, and this is it, and I know this through testing, but for me personally, if I have a cheat meal, then the next day I always do like high intensity interval training, and I do a particularly intense session, and that helps to get me back into ketosis a hell of a lot quicker. And that's because it will burn the glucose and the glycogen right out of your system so much faster. And so there's things that you can do to push yourself back in. I know she says she's recovering from an injury, so you know, that might not be an option, but exogenous ketones may be.
Yeah.
And that could be something to help get you there. And we'll talk about that in just a minute because we got a question concerning Keto OS as well. So I'd like to move on to the next question, and then we'll wrap up. By the way, do we have any questions in the chat box?
No, nope, we're good.
Okay, cool. All right, Joanna's up. She says, thank you for doing this. I've been following the ketogenic diet since January. I find I have no appetite at all. Yeah, isn't that amazing, Joanna? I still have an appetite, but it's a different kind of hunger than what it used to be. You know what I mean? Like, it's a manageable hunger for me now. I can go for hours and hours and hours without eating. But even though I'm still hungry, it's not like that, what I call hangry, you know, that angry hungry that I used to get under a standard American diet, you know? So it's amazing. But she says, my caloric intake is between 600 and 900, and I think that's the reason I've only lost 11 pounds. How can I increase my calories to speed up my weight loss? And Roberto and I talked about this just briefly prior to the webinar starting. Yeah, that could be an issue. I don't know how big you are, Joanna, like what your height and weight are, but I'm going to say the same thing that I just mentioned, and we'll walk you through it. Here's what I recommend you do. Go to calculator.com. Okay, go to calculator.com. Looks like maybe it's calculator.net. I bet you it's .net. Give me 1 minute. Yes, I'm sorry, calculator.net. And then you'll see right here where it says, it should say calorie calculator right here. If you click on that, then if you use this, you can enter in your age, select your gender, put your height in there, and put your weight in there. And then what I always do is select from the activity level. I select sedentary. Okay, so like let me fill it out with my numbers. I'm 38, I'm male, I'm 5'11", and I weigh 205 pounds. So, and I put sedentary, little or no exercise, and I do that for a reason, okay? I'm going to hit calculate, and this tells me that my daily calorie intake number should be, and I know it's probably small on your end, guys. Let me zoom in a little bit. It says 2,200 and roughly 50, so 2,250 calories a day. So that's how many calories I should be eating a day if I want to maintain my weight. If I want to lose weight, I need to go into a deficit. If I want to gain weight, I need to go into a surplus. It's that simple. Now, you can create a deficit two ways, right? You can either restrict your caloric intake, which means go on a diet, a calorie diet. So you're basically reduce the number of calories you're eating on a daily basis. Or you can create a deficit by eating your daily calorie number and working out and exercising, and you create the deficit that way. That's how I prefer to do it, because if I wanted to lose, and like I said, I always tried to hit 1,000 calorie deficit per day. That was predictably 2 pounds per week of fat that I would lose. And I did that for 56 weeks straight because I was able to maintain 1,000 calorie deficit every single day. And instead of trying to live on 1,250, at the time I was bigger, so I was eating 2,600 calories on a daily basis. And if I tried to restrict to 1,600 calories and create that 1,000 calorie deficit, I'd be starving all damn day, and I'd be angry, and it sucked. And so I wasn't able to do that. So I learned, in order for me to be able to not be miserable, I would eat my full 2,600 calories at the time, and I would work out and burn roughly 1,000 on average, about 1,000 calories a day from exercise. And so you specifically, Joanna, the reason why I bring this up is because I don't know what your size is, but 600 to 900 calories seems like an awfully very, very low number of calorie intake. And I would recommend that you would find out what your number is, and then you can start to manipulate your caloric intake to achieve the results that you're looking to achieve based upon what the number should be, what your daily caloric needs should be, if that makes sense. So Roberto, can you comment on that?
Yeah, I put the calculator.net link in the live webinar.
Okay.
I used that to begin with. I actually found another one that was really helpful because it has a little bit extra features on it. Now, if you don't like more features, then just stay away from it. But this is from a company a website called Ketogenic. I just put that in there as well. However, to address your question about hunger, as far as I'm concerned, and I did my research on this as well, it seems like you've been on the ketogenic diet long enough to where you've become keto adapted, and actually that is a symptom of becoming keto adapted, but you're no longer hungry. Reason being is when you're used to eating carbohydrates, which turn into glucose as your main fuel source, what's happening in your blood is there's going to be a constant rise and lowering of blood sugar levels. And that rise and lowering of blood sugar levels constantly, that's what causes a lot of the cravings that you get throughout the day. And so when you become keto adapted, you're no longer having those spikes of insulin. And so that could very well be the reason why you're not feeling hungry. So it's not a bad thing at all. However, yeah, I don't really want to give you advice that is completely wrong concerning your 600 to 900 calories. I don't know your weight.
Right.
You lost 11 pounds here. There's just a couple of missing details. If you want, Joanna, I don't know if you're in our Facebook group, go ahead and Facebook message me. I'm Roberto Esposito. You can find me on the admin group under the admins, or just wherever you want on the keto page. Send me a message with all of your details, and I'll definitely try to help you. I don't want to give you an answer and throw people off, because this webinar is going to be recorded, so I don't want to spew out information for the sake of that. I need more information for it.
That's good advice. And the one thing I want to mention, she says, how can I increase my calories to speed up my weight loss? And you know, what I found with keto is, and the following question, Shauna, this is kind of a good lead in for that as well, because I drink bulletproof coffee a lot. I drink 2 of those every morning. And that's 1 tablespoon of ghee, which is about 14 grams of fat. And then 1 tablespoon of MCT oil. And by the way, I can talk about a new MCT oil today that I just started. I just got it from Amazon about 3 days ago, and I love it. It's really, really good. I'll talk about that in a minute. But yeah, so that ends up being another 14 grams of fat. So there's 1 tablespoon of ghee, 1 tablespoon of MCT oil in a coffee, and I drink that. That's the first thing I drink in the morning when I wake up, and then I drink another one about 2 hours later, and that's my breakfast. I've been practicing intermittent fasting for about a month now, and so I eat my feeding time where I actually eat food. Bulletproof coffee doesn't count because that doesn't trigger an insulin response, and being in a fasted state just means there's no insulin response. So like if I drink a bulletproof coffee in the morning, it's 100% fat. So the macros are 100% fat, 0 protein, 0 carbs, and it's 28 grams of fat. And so and the calories end up being 220 calories per bulletproof coffee. And so I drink 2 of those, and that's 440 calories. That's 56 grams of fat. And I start my day off on 100% fat. So that's what keeps me in ketosis. And then, like I said, I go to the gym around 10 a.m. and I take a shot of Keto OS, exogenous ketones, and a scoop of very low carb whey protein isolate. And so that, again, that doesn't trigger an insulin response. And so I'm able to go to the gym and work out. And when I come home at 12:30 in the afternoon, that's when I make and eat lunch. That's when the first time that I eat, and I stop eating after dinner at 6:30 p.m. So I go like 18 hours now with no intake of food. And it's manageable on the keto diet, Joanna. So like, I understand about not being hungry, because I literally, like, the bulletproof, sometimes in the morning I will be a little bit hungry, but the bulletproof coffee, like, it satisfies my appetite, and it gives me a whole bunch of energy and like this mental focus. Like, I always make jokes about it being like like methamphetamine in a cup because I always feel like it makes me like really super on point, sharp and alert, and like gives me a lot of energy. So I just wanted to mention, Joanna, like, one thing that you can do to help increase calorie intake is to eat like fat bombs, for example. There's something else I'm going to mention here in a moment that I tried in the last week that's really good. Bulletproof coffees, those work great. Anything like that that's going to have like a high fat content. Remember, a gram of fat has 9 calories, whereas a gram of carbs and a gram of protein each only contain 4 calories. So fat is very high, or it's very calorie dense, right? So increasing your fat intake from is going to increase your caloric intake more than 2 to 1 versus protein or carbs would. That makes sense. So, okay. Roberto, you want to comment on that before I move to the next one?
No, I think we hit that. Like I said, Joanna, just message me if you want, and we can go further.
Very cool. All right, so Shauna's up, and she says, I don't drink coffee as of now, but should I try bulletproof coffee, that's BPC, in order to get my fats up? When is the best time to drink Keto OS? Okay, so first of all, Shauna, if you're not a coffee drinker, there are other alternatives that you can do that can still provide you with a lot of the benefits that bulletproof coffee does. And I'm going to mention a couple of those, and let's just go ahead and do that now. And guys, I have no affiliation with this company yet. I say yet because I really like it, and I'm probably going to try to find out if they have an affiliate program or something like that. But I'm just going to share this with you guys now. This is called Keto Bars, ketobars.com. If you want to drop the link in the chat, Roberto. These are a little bit expensive. There's no doubt, but I ordered these last week and I just got them in the mail a few days ago, and they're really, really good. The keto bars, they're really small, but it's 210 grams of fat, and it's literally like it's right here. It says, or excuse me, 210 calories. Excuse me, 18 grams of fat, 7 grams of protein, and there's only 2 grams of net carbs per bar. And they're really tasty. They're small, they're expensive. It's roughly $2.20 per bar, but because it's $21.99 for 10. But they're really, really good. And I find that something like that with 18 grams of fat, it's 200 calories, 18 grams of fat. And you know, if I get a little bit hungry, I eat one of those, and it satisfies my appetite and it gives me energy, because it's, you know, especially in ketosis, you're just feeding your body what it wants. And I brought this up only because I came across this website, believe it or not, through a Gmail ad. I'm sure you guys have Gmail, see the ads sometimes. I saw keto bars one day at the top of my Gmail account, and I clicked on it. It took me over here, and I started to go just buy the bars after reading about it. I was like, okay, cool. You know what? I'll give it a shot. But what they have is these other products. They have these what they call keto shakes, and the keto shakes are basically like MCT powder. You know, like coconut oil powder, basically, and some stevia and some flavorings or whatever. And you can mix it with water or coconut milk, or excuse me, and or almond milk. And I've tried it because I bought the sampler pack. And so I've actually been trying the keto shakes with I buy almond and coconut milk blend, or sometimes I blend my own with my own coconut milk, so that I can give it a higher fat content. But these are really, really good. Again, it's about $2.20 per shake, but it's really good. And if you're not a coffee drinker, this might be an alternative. And I'm sure there's other manufacturers or people that make these kind of things as well. These are the only ones that I've tried outside of, because I love Bulletproof coffee, so I drink those all the time. But these are actually pretty good, and you can get they're in like packets, so you can take them with you, like on the road and stuff like that, if that makes sense. So that's ketobars.com. You should check them out.
Yeah, I just added that to the chat, so it's cool.
Okay, cool. She says, when is the best time to drink Keto OS? If it's before you work out, how much before? And what if I work out right when I wake up? Can you drink it while you work out? Yeah, you can't. See, listen, Keto OS, exogenous ketones. If you guys want to find out more about that, you can go to ketovip.com, and you'll see, like, in the sidebar, there's a banner for that. Or you can go to ketovip.com/pruvit, PRUVIT, and that'll take you over to the Keto OS website, where you can find out more about it. I love it. I take it right before I work out. So, like I mentioned a moment ago, my breakfast every day is 2 bulletproof coffees. Like, well, I have one when I wake up, and about 2 hours later, I drink another one. And in about 2 hours after that is when I leave to go to the gym. And I always take one. If you buy the Keto OS in what they call a can, so it's like a jug, and they spell it with a K, K-A-N, it's 30 servings. So each scoop is 1 serving. However, I only use about 2/3 of a scoop. So my can of 30 servings lasts me for 40 servings. And I take 2/3 of a scoop, and I just eyeball it. I don't measure it. I just eyeball it. And I drink, so basically 2/3 of 1 serving of Keto OS, and I mix that with 1 scoop of whey protein isolate. That's very, very low carb. It's like 2 grams of carbs per scoop. And that gives me a little bit of protein, and then the ketone energy that boosts my ketones in my body. So it gives me a ton of energy for the gym. And I work out freaking hard now for about 60 to 75 minutes every single day. And I never have a shortage of energy, which is amazing. And that to me is like the magic elixir. It's the cocktail that I make every day before I work out. So personally, Shauna, I use it right before I work out, but you can use Keto OS at any time during the day. I know a lot of people that actually, when they eat like a meal that might have too many carbs, they drink Keto OS afterwards because it helps to put them back into ketosis quicker, if that makes sense. So it really just depends. Personally, I recommend that you use it before you work out because it'll really help to fuel your workouts. So you haven't even tried it yet, have you, Roberto?
No, I have not. I don't even, to be technically honest with you, I don't even know if I'm in a state of ketosis. I infer that I am. It's been well over a month, and the carbs that I have are just ancillary carbs from what I'm already eating, and I have a lot of greens as well. However, I'm looking into these exogenous ketones as well. One of the things I wanted to mention to Shauna is that, you know, there's all of these great products, and there's all of these great pieces of information out there, and it can overwhelm us. Like, we do things, right? And I think ultimately, what I'm going to be trying to do for everybody, as well as for myself, is if you were just alone by yourself with the food that you have, the resources that you have, and all you had was the understanding of what that food does when it's consumed, you would know exactly when to take everything, or when to eat, when not to eat, right? Because the question of when to take keto OS is really a question of what is this doing to my body, and when's the best, when should I be doing it to my body? And once you know that, once you have that answer, stuff like that becomes such a simple thing to answer. Like, for instance, between 10 to 12 hours of a fast, or of not eating or putting anything into your body, that's when your body typically begins to produce ketones, okay? If you know that ahead of time, and it's been 12 hours since you've eaten, like, putting the keto OS might not, you might reason to believe, hey, why would I? Because I'm already producing it right now. Now, you could also reason to believe, I know I'm producing ketones now, let me put more in, right? When you have that type of understanding, it makes things more clear for you. It makes the decisions about when and the hows real simple. And again, this is something I'm going to hammer this home for you guys, because I'm so passionate about this, because I have this type of understanding when it comes to fitness, at least. I'm not trying to toot my own horn. Like I said, I am not quick to say I know anything about anything, because there's always going to be more advancements and things to learn. However, I have a way of building an understanding that I think everybody could really be helpful for everybody. Like, when we're asking these questions, it's always going to be from a place of just not understanding what's happening in the body because of what I'm putting in it. And once you know that, once you have that connection, it's going to alleviate most, if not all, of these questions that you have, because you can deduce what it's going to do to you before, but for yourself, because you know what's happening in your body. Sorry if that took a little too long, but
no, it's fine, man. It's good. So the follow-up on that was, if I wanted to do intermittent fasting, does that include no BPC or bulletproof coffee or keto S until 11ish or so? And no, once again, Shauna, no, because bulletproof coffee in itself, or if it doesn't trigger an insulin response, then it's not going to pull you out of a fast, so to speak, right? And so again, I consume too. I've been doing intermittent fasting now for about a month, and so I go about 18 hours without consuming anything that has any carbs whatsoever. So I finish, like I said, I finish dinner around 6:30 at night, and then I don't eat anything. I might drink some water or something for the evening, but then in the morning, and sometimes I'll have a bulletproof coffee at night. It's not always the case, but you know, it's sometimes I will. But in the mornings, I drink the bulletproof coffees, and like Roberto just said, yeah, I know my body's producing ketones before I go to the gym, because I've been in a fasted state for nearly 18 hours, and I haven't had anything other than bulletproof coffee, which, especially with the new MCT oil that I'm using, it converts to ketones. It basically like passes right through the liver. There's C8 MCT chains, or fat chains, or whatever. And again, I just know very little about this stuff, but even though I know I'm producing more ketones, I take keto OS prior to going to the gym, because that, like I said, it gives me this huge surge of energy, and it helps me push through even some incredibly intense workouts with never running out of energy. And to me, that's amazing. I feel like freaking superhuman at the gym sometimes because of it. And I love it. And that's why I continue to do it every day. So again, you can absolutely, and that's what I was scared to try intermittent fasting. I just started trying that a month ago, and I'd been on the ketogenic diet for a year and a half. And the reason I didn't ever try it is because I was always afraid that I thought that it would suck and that I'd be hungry all the time. But to be honest with you, when I started doing it, because I'm able to drink the bulletproof coffees and that satiates my appetite, then I don't go, like, I'm not starving. I might have a little bit of hunger, but it's a manageable hunger. And so, I just want to kind of share that with you. Don't be scared to try it. And I've seen some incredible results. Like I said, 21 pounds in 6 weeks, just from really switching to an intermittent fasting and also following a strict ketogenic diet instead of having an elevated protein level. Okay.
Ronnie, I just wanted to add to that really quickly. Talking about intermittent fasting, I created a playlist on our KetoVIP YouTube channel. I'm going to get that link right now and put it in. It's an extensive, it's lengthy. However, they're broken down into episodes, if you will. And you'll understand intermittent fasting and the benefits of intermittent fasting far more clearly than you ever would. And
awesome.
I suggest everybody go and check that out when you have the time in your breaks and stuff. I mean, the videos are lengthy. I mean, like maybe perhaps sometimes over an hour. However, you'll understand the foundation of why intermittent fasting works, its link to insulin, and the importance of insulin and what we're trying to do here, what we're trying to accomplish. So I'll get that link for you guys real quick.
Yeah, you should post that in the Facebook group too, so you can get more people to watch it. All right. Okay, so that's basically it. Last question she said was MCT oil powder. What can you do with that besides coffee? And again, that's what something like these are, keto shakes. And again, guys, there's more. You can go to Amazon and just find all different kinds of manufacturers and like different flavors and brands and all that stuff. And these are the only ones I tested, only because I drink the MC, bulletproof coffee. And by the way, this is what I wanted to mention real quick, and then we're going to move on to this. These questions took a lot longer than I planned, and it's just because we were so detailed. But I wanted to show you guys, let's see, Mickey T8, maybe, I think it is. Yeah, Mickey T8 oil, MCT oil. This is the one here. Okay, so I just started trying this, guys. I, for the longest time, was buying the bulletproof brain octane oil, which is really expensive. It's like $45 for a 32-ounce bottle. And I was buying that for a while, and then because the cost was so high, I switched to going with Now MCT oil, which is this one right here, because it's a lot more cost effective. But there's a difference, and I just spent some time researching it, and the difference is the type of, I guess, the fat chain or whatever. There's like C8 is the most ketogenic of the MCT oils. And of the, I guess, different strains of MCT oil or whatever, and C8 is supposed to be the most ketogenic. It like basically passes through the liver and is turned into ketones instantly with like it requires no metabolism. Like it literally like just passes right through, which is amazing. And so it produces the most ketones, and that's what's called C8, C8 caprylic acid. Okay, and so anyways, I was buying the MCT oil, or the it's called brain octane for bulletproof, but it's really expensive, and that's what brain octane is. It's just C8, and that's it. But I ended up switching over to Now MCT oil, and this is what I've been using for probably, I don't know, 6 months or 8 months. But this is a blend of C8 and C10, and so it's not as ketogenic, and it's a lot cheaper, but it's not as ketogenic. And so anyways, for the first time within the last week, I ordered this to try it. And I really, really like it. Like, I know MCT oil is not supposed to affect flavor because it's supposed to be a neutral flavor, but this actually has a better taste in the coffee than I think the Now does. And I've only been using it for 3 days now, but I notice a difference right off the bat from taking it. Especially because I drink it first thing in the morning, the surge of energy that I get and mental focus, it's really amazing. And so I just wanted to point this out, guys. You can go check it out if you want, but I think it's really, really high quality. In fact, if you scroll down, you'll probably see my review on here somewhere, because I just submitted a review just a couple days ago. So anyways, I just wanted to kind of point that out and let you guys know, like, if you're looking for really good MCT oil, you're going to want to look for stuff that's the pure C8 caprylic acid, because that's going to be the most ketogenic of the MCT oils. Okay. Okay, cool. So is there any questions that came in through the chat box?
No, we're good on the chat box.
Okay, cool.
Linda asked what exogenous ketones were, and I just told her those are outside source ketones. They're not created from the body. You're just getting them from another source, like you're consuming them. Yeah,
essentially it's a base, I guess the keto OS is what they call HBH salts. I can't pronounce it. It's beta hydro butyrate or something. I can't pronounce it. I'm not a doctor, but I'm not a scientist. But apparently, what it does is it makes your body produce more ketones. Like it's a precursor to ketone production. That's what the HBH salts do. And so apparently, at least that's my understanding, is that it helps. It's a ketone base, so it helps your body. It puts your body in a state that can produce ketones very efficiently. So that's what that does. And so anyways, you can find out more about what that is and all that if you go to ketovip.com/prove it. That's PRUVIT. And you can check out, there's a bunch of information on that site about what they are and how they work. All right, so this I was going to talk briefly about, and we might have to just do another webinar, or maybe we can talk about it in Facebook Live stream instead, separately, Roberto. But I was going to talk a little bit about keto flu and my experience with it, but I kind of want to cover this a little bit, and then we're going to wrap it up in about 10 minutes. So we might have to just save the keto flu experiences for separate video. Is that cool with you, Roberto?
Yeah, that's cool, especially since I haven't had the flu, so I'm good. No, I'm just kidding. But yeah, we'll get to it.
Awesome. All right, so the last webinar that I did, and so hopefully this gentleman watches this one too, because I want to address some of his comments, and I appreciate him taking the time to write a detailed comment out like this. But this was in YouTube. It was just posted a day or two ago on the previous webinar that we did. So somebody was just on the YouTube channel watching the webinar, and they left this comment in the comments section underneath the replay. And so there's a couple things in here that I wanted to cover just briefly, because there's some points that I agree with and some that I disagree with, and I just want to kind of address this in kind of a public format here for our group, because so number one, the first thing was I was talking about beer in the group. I'm a connoisseur of beer. I love beer, and I used to drink a lot of IPA, India Pale Ale, which is full of calories and carbs. No wonder I was 280 pounds. It was because I drank a lot of IPA beer. And going on the ketogenic diet, that basically killed that for me. I'm not allowed to drink that beer anymore. I still do on occasion, on special occasions, I'll drink an IPA or two. And occasionally, about once or twice a month, I'll have an evening where I'll drink an IPA or two. And then and that's what I consider part of a cheat meal. And then I'll have to, get back into ketosis within a couple days by, doing a high intensity interval training or whatever it takes. But I stopped drinking IPA beer because it was, you can't drink that kind of stuff on a ketogenic diet, right? It's like trying to drink Coca-Cola on a ketogenic diet. It just doesn't work, So I started drinking Miller Lite. I'm not a huge fan of it, but it's very low carb, and that way I can still have a beer in the evening, and it's only 3.2 carbs. It doesn't kick me out of ketosis. It's not a big deal. So, and the guy was making a comment on that, so I just kind of thought that was funny. Dude, if you're watching this, I hear you. I know I should be ashamed of myself, but if I want to drink a beer, that's the only option I have. The next was the calories and macros, and this is really what I wanted to talk about. The comment, and that's what we discussed a little bit earlier on this webinar, guys, about counting calories. I've had many people have come into the Keto VIP group, Facebook group, and or replied to my emails that I send out. Because I know I ask you guys to reply on a lot of the emails and to send me your thoughts or questions, concerns, that kind of stuff. And one of the questions that comes up repeatedly is, or hearsay, something that people say, well, I started the ketogenic diet and I heard you don't have to count calories. And so this gentleman that replied was talking about, so calorie counting isn't necessary if you do ketosis the way it's recommended by experts like Dr. Berg. The proper macro ratio for nutritional ketosis is 80% fat or more, 20 grams of carbs or less per day. The rest is protein. Also, instead of counting net carbs, Dr. Berg recommends eating a pound or more of leafy veggies every day and not counting the carbs from leafy vegetables, celery or cucumbers. Count net carbs from other veggies and total carbs from all other sources. If you do it that way, you don't need to count calories. And he says, and so I want to say that, I agree with part of that statement, but not part of the other. And I'm not a doctor, so maybe you don't have to count calories. But for me personally, what I found was once I identified that calorie number and I started manipulating that, I was able to equally manipulate my weight loss and or gain. In other words, once I figured out how many calories my body, and I wear a Fitbit, guys. My Fitbit tells me how many calories I burn on a daily basis. And my average and I can pull it up on in a browser and show you. If I log into my Fitbit account, I can show you that my average daily calorie burn is 3,400 calories. But that's because I exercise for an hour or more per day as well. So right now, I can tell you, since 6 weeks ago, 2 weeks prior to the first 30-day challenge that we did for Keto VIP, I went back on a strict ketogenic diet and went into a calorie deficit. I'd spent 4 months in a calorie surplus because I was doing heavy strength training. And so I actually gained, I went from 216 pounds, or excuse me, 213 pounds at my lowest point prior to this last cut cycle. I got down to 213, and then I gained weight all the way up to 228. So I gained 15 pounds over about 4 months. And that's because I was intentionally eating a surplus. That's what I'm getting at with this calorie counting stuff. I knew what my calorie numbers were. So as part of heavy strength training, I was trying to add muscle. So I ate more, and I was able to gain weight consistently 2 pounds per week. Like literally, because I was eating about 1,000. To be honest, I was eating about a 500 calorie surplus per day. I was eating anywhere between 3,500 to 4,000 calories per day. But then when I decided to go back on the cut cycle, and I was just trying to prepare my body for the 30-day challenge, no kidding, because I told, as part of the 30-day challenge with Keto VIP members, I said I was going to participate and go back into a deficit. And I did. And so I did for 2 weeks prior to the challenge and then during the challenge, and I went back into, I set my daily calorie intake to 2,500 calories. And I would eat that every day, but I burn on average 3,400 calories a day. So it's a 900 to 1,000 calorie deficit on a daily basis. And I lost 21 pounds in 2 weeks, or excuse me, 6 weeks. And so my point is, the only reason why I'm rehashing this again is because I want to mention, like, for me personally, the only way that I'm able to predictably lose weight and do it with like almost certain, like, and do it very precisely with precision, right, is to manipulate my calorie intake based upon what I know my body burns on a daily basis and what kind of target weight loss, like at the rate or the velocity at which I want to lose weight. Then I can manipulate my caloric intake based upon what my goals are, and I can hit it. Now, with certainty, I know I can hit it. And so to me, although I know I've heard other people say that they don't have to count calories, personally, for me, I need to count calories, and then I can predictably manipulate my own weight, if that makes sense. So Roberto, what do you have to say about that?
Yeah, that was great, Bradley. What I want to add to that is, I see a little bit below, he talks about a 21-day challenge where someone ate 4,000 calories, worked out less than usual. I'm assuming, he lost 2 pounds. It just says that. There's always going to be like outliers, right? There's always going to be people out who are going to have results that are going to be not normal, not typical. Now, I have no idea what that 21-day challenge was. I'm not saying that it was that he is an outlier at all, but I will say that we don't have any other bits of information. Like, context is so important, and the thing that I want to get across here is that we're all in this because we want to get healthy, right? We want our bodies to be in optimal health, and the goal is not ketosis, really, and I know that sounds weird, but the goal here is health. And what we're trying to do here, if I told you we're going to accomplish something, it makes sense to prepare beforehand all the resources and things necessary to make that goal most able to be accomplished. So when you have two different scenarios of somebody who's really, especially the people that we seem to be attracting into our group, these are people probably, we don't know about calories and what they mean and how many grams are per calorie. It confuses people. So the idea that you can or can't count calories, they're both correct, right? I never ever counted calories, and I've always been able to maintain a lean body. However, that doesn't mean there's not benefits to counting calories. I'll let you know that in the last 30 days, when I began to count calories in the final 2 weeks of the challenge, it was cool, and because I did lose weight. And the thing about counting calories is it's a legitimate boundary, right? So we have a goal, and we're trying to reach that goal. If you're not doing everything possible to build towards that goal, you might decide not to count calories and then not lose the weight, and find out that you were probably going over or perhaps going under. And if you're not losing the weight, you might be led to being frustrated and say things don't work. well, if us as a group built our goal, built everything around our goal so that we're going to be most successful, doesn't it sort of make sense that we want to at least try counting calories for an extended period of time to just test it out? When you do that, it's a real boundary, because now you know exactly what's going in your body. It's objective, and then we have something objective that we can work off of. When you're not counting calories, it's really like we don't have a target to diagnose where to go from.
Yeah.
And so that's what I would say. Absolutely, you can lose weight without counting calories. People have been doing it forever because we haven't always been able to count calories, right? However, calories while we can, if you can, because it's just another thing that's going to point in the direction that's going to help you achieve your goal. That's my take on it.
Yeah, and I mean that's what I'm saying. I mean, personally for me, once I've really learned my own calorie needs and having a Fitbit helped, and obviously having the MyFitnessPal app makes it easy to track and count calories and macros. And so because of it, it's just part of my habit now. You know, I've been using MyFitnessPal for a year and a half now, and like it's funny because anybody that has MyFitnessPal, you know, when you log in and it says you've logged in for so many days in a row or whatever. And like I've had it all the way up in the 200 and some days before I lapsed a day. Like, you know what I mean? So it's funny because, but it's just part of my habit on a daily basis. And so tracking calories for me gives me a target and a bullseye that I know that I as long as I stay within my calorie numbers, I can manipulate my weight either up or down or maintain it. And so for me, counting calories has made a big, has been huge for me being able to achieve my weight loss goals. And I'm still not to where I want to be yet, but I'm still working on it. You know what I mean? And so, and I think you never ever get to where you want to be physically when you're on this path. You know what I mean? So, but yeah, as far as that, the other thing is, I think there was a misunderstanding here. Said, look, I know I've talked to some or replied to some emails from some of our subscribers that have said that, you know, I've tried keto, but I haven't lost any weight. I've actually gained weight. And I say, and I reply and I ask about the calories. Okay, so tell me, what's your daily calorie number and how many calories are you consuming on a daily basis? Oh, well, I don't know because I was told I didn't have to track calories. Okay, well then instead of you telling me what your daily calorie number is, you don't know that. How about you run through a typical day diet? Like what do you eat throughout the day, and try to give me then what it is that you eat and the amounts that you eat. And what amazes me is the amount of calories, because even people that are trying to follow the ketogenic diet and eating like these really high fats, you know what I mean? Like they're following the macros yet are gaining weight, or they're not seeing weight loss. And could be some body composition changes, things occurring that where you're losing fat and but not losing weight. That can happen too. But at the same time, when I see like the calorie intake is way above what somebody of their size and stature should be probably eating, it's no wonder, in my opinion, that they could be actually gaining weight or not seeing the scale budge at all. Because the way I understand it is, if you consume more calories than you expend, you will gain weight, whether in both muscle and fat, but it can be both, is what I'm saying. And that's just, to me, again, from my understanding, and I'm not arguing with anybody because I'm not a damn doctor, but from my understanding, it's thermodynamics or thermogenesis, right? You have to consume, or you have to expend more energy than you consume. So another way of saying that is you have to expend more calories than you consume in order to lose weight. And so that's the model that I followed, and it has worked enormously well for me. Okay. So that was my take on that. We're at the 1 hour mark. I'm going to wrap it up unless we have any additional questions.
No additional.
Okay, very cool. Very cool. So you answered the questions in the chat box?
Yep.
Awesome. Well, guys, we appreciate you guys being here. Like I said, this was our third one. We'll be doing another one in about a month. We've got Roberto's got lots of stuff he's going to be coming out with over the next few weeks as well. Certainly you can ask us questions in the Facebook group at any time. And also you can certainly reply to us via email, Bradley@KetoVIP.com or Roberto@KetoVIP.com, either one, and we'll get back to you guys. So we appreciate y'all being here. Roberto, thanks, man. It was lots of fun.
Oh yeah, I thoroughly enjoyed this, and I hope we gave some value out there.
Yep. All right, guys, we'll see you on the next one. Thanks, everybody.
I'll see you guys.